Welcome to the Nifty Noon podcast. We're doing a deep dive today looking at a really interesting set of updates from our own newsletters, actually, from May 5th through to May 9th, 2025.
Yeah, it was quite a busy few days.
It really was. And our goal here is, to sift through everything and pull out the most important bits happening in crypto and NFTs during that time, give you a clear picture of what's actually significant.
Definitely. And there's a lot to cover. We've got NFT market trends, some big crypto price moves, a major Ethereum upgrade, and even crypto getting tangled up with AI.
Exactly. So let's just jump right in. Where should we start? Maybe the NFT market? The May 8th newsletter asked that big question. Are NFTs back?
Right. That's a good place to start. And it wasn't just a rhetorical question. There were some concrete signs pointing towards renewed interest, or at least renewed activity.
Yeah, I saw that. Like the Doodles collection, their floor price saw a noticeable jump, which, seemed tied to their DoD token generation event, their TGE, which happened on May 9th.
Exactly. That TGE was definitely a catalyst.
Yeah.
It always brings attention when a project launches its own token.
It does, but it raises questions, doesn't it? Like, is this sustainable, just launching a token to pump the floor price? Or is it more of a short-term speculative thing around the event itself?
That's the million-dollar question, maybe literally in some cases. And, the newsletter also mentioned some controversy or frustration around the allocation.
Oh, right, that it seemed to favor the Solana crowd over the existing Doodles holders on Ethereum.
Yeah, exactly, which kind of highlights these growing pains and complexities with cross-chain projects and communities. How do you reward everyone fairly? It's tricky.
It really is. But beyond Doodles and the token hype, there were some other, maybe more fundamental signs of life in the NFT space mentioned, right? Like those big art sales.
Yes, absolutely. Those were significant. You had Ape CryptoPunk 6965 sell, and also XCOPY's piece, The Last Selfie.
Both for over $1 million.
And there was even talk, maybe speculation, that the CryptoPunk actually went for closer to $1.8 million.
Wow. Okay, those aren't just everyday flips. That's serious money changing hands, suggesting some real conviction in those blue chip type assets.
It definitely signals confidence from certain high-level collectors. But whether that translates to a broader market revival, bringing back sustained retail interest, that's still the big question mark.
True. One big sale doesn't make a market turn. But the May 5th newsletter actually focused on something maybe a bit broader within a specific niche. It called it XCOPY season.
Ah, yes, XCOPY season. That was interesting. It wasn't just one sale, but increased activity across multiple XCOPY collections. Floor prices were up, transaction volumes were up.
It felt like a real moment of appreciation for his work, maybe beyond just flipping. What do you think drives that kind of focus on a single artist like that?
It's a combination of factors, I think. Artistic merit, reputation, maybe some coordinated collector action, who knows. But the newsletter pointed out his Grifters collection hit a 20 ETH floor.
20 ETH. That's huge. That puts it right up there with major PFP collections.
It really does. And then you had that collector, Benji, completing the known origin set by buying the doomed black and green. That shows, serious dedication, moving beyond just short-term price action into actual art collecting.
Right. It feels more like connoisseurship, like you said.
But, and this is important, the newsletter did add that necessary dose of caution.
Ah, the reality check.
Exactly. Reminding everyone, especially those focused purely on the financial side, that historically these sharp pumps in NFTs often don't last. They can sort of bleed out over time as attention moves elsewhere.
That's such a crucial point for anyone treating these as investments. You need to consider when or if to take profits during these hype cycles. But for pure collectors, the buzz is probably welcome.
For sure. And to give a sense of the overall market pulse, the newsletters did include those daily stats, volume on Blur, volume on OpenSea.
Right, and the top sales, the biggest daily winners and losers. That gives you a snapshot of where the immediate money and attention is flowing, like Doodles topping the volume chart right after their token news broke.
Yeah, it clearly shows the impact of specific events. And seeing those daily winners and losers really hammers home the volatility, doesn't it? Big swings are just part of the game here.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's the NFT side. Let's pivot to Ethereum. The May 7th newsletter had a big headline. Ethereum braces for Pectra. Called it the biggest upgrade since the merge.
Yeah, that definitely caught my eye too. Biggest since the merge is a strong claim. Pectra is a big deal.
So what's the main goal? The newsletter said improving user experience and network efficiency.
Primarily, yes. It's actually a combination of two previously planned upgrades, Prague and Electra. They fused them together into Pectra, bringing, I think the newsletter said, 11 core protocol improvements in total.
11 improvement. Okay, that sounds pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
One key piece mentioned was EIP 7702. Can you break that down? What does that mean for the average user?
Sure. EIP 7702 is really interesting. It essentially lets regular Ethereum wallets, the kind most people use, temporarily act like smart contract wallets for a single transaction.
Okay, what does that enable?
It's a step towards something called account abstraction. Think of it like giving your basic wallet superpowers for a moment. The biggest immediate benefit is allowing users to pay gas fees using different tokens, not just ETH.
Whoa, really? So I could pay gas with USDC or something?
Potentially, yes, or other ERC20 tokens. That would make things so much simpler, especially for onboarding new people who might not have ETH readily available just for fees. It lowers a huge barrier.
That sounds massive for usability. Okay, what else? There was another one mentioned, EIP 7251 affecting validators.
Right. EIP 7251 deals with staking. It allows validators, the people securing the network, to increase their maximum stake significantly. Currently, it's capped at 32 ETH per validator.
And this raises it.
Raises it quite a bit, up to 2,048 ETH. This could make things more efficient for large staking operations, as they wouldn't need to manage as many individual validators.
Okay. Does that raise any concerns about staking becoming more centralized?
It's a valid question. The potential impact on staking concentration versus the efficiency gains, that's something the community will be watching closely. It's always a balancing act in these systems.
Makes sense. And this wasn't just talk, right? The May 8th newsletter said Pectra actually went live that day.
Yes, which is pretty fast deployment for such a major upgrade. And the market seemed to like it.
Yeah, the May 9th newsletter, Crypto Keeps Pumping Higher, directly linked Ethereum's price surge partly to the successful Pectra launch.
Definitely. It seemed to boost confidence in the network's development and future.
And that May 9th newsletter painted a pretty bullish picture overall for crypto, didn't it? Bitcoin back over 100K, ETH past $2K. Felt like a real shift from earlier in the year.
It did. The newsletter suggested a couple of key drivers. One was some positive signals on the international trade front, Trump's deal with the UK, hints about the EU. That seemed to ease some macro fears that had been weighing things down.
Right, because those tariff announcements back in April had really spooked the markets.
Exactly. So easing those tensions helped. But more directly for crypto, the successful Pectra upgrade was clearly a major positive factor, especially for Ethereum's big jump, nearly 20%, its best day since 2021, according to the newsletter.
Wow. And didn't Standard Chartered also weigh in? Something about the Bitcoin ETS.
Yes, their analyst Jeff Kendrick was quoted highlighting the really strong, consistent inflows into the spot Bitcoin ETFs. He suggested their own Q2 target for Bitcoin, 120K, might even be too low now.
That's pretty bullish. It's fascinating how much impact these traditional finance products are having now.
It really is. It shows how intertwined the markets are becoming. And, it's worth remembering, like the newsletter pointed out, how different the mood was just back in early April during that tariff-driven downturn.
Yeah.
The bounce back shows some resilience.
Definitely. The newsletters also tracked other coins, right? Solana, Polygon, also seeing gains by May 9th.
Yeah, the recovery seemed pretty broad-based by that point, though Bitcoin was clearly leading the charge.
Speaking of which, the May 8th newsletter mentioned Bitcoin dominance hitting a 4-year high. What does that typically signal?
High Bitcoin dominance often means that even when the whole market is rising, Bitcoin is rising faster or capturing more of the incoming capital. It can sometimes indicate a bit of a flight to perceived safety within crypto, or just that the narrative around Bitcoin is particularly strong at that moment.
Gotcha. Okay, let's switch gears again. There was a really intriguing piece on May 6th about Tether moving into AI.
Yeah.
Can Tether make crypto AI real with Tether AI?
Yeah, that was unexpected, wasn't it? Tether, mostly known for its stablecoin, USDT, announcing a move into artificial intelligence.
Definitely a pivot. What's the core idea? The newsletter mentioned Tether AI being open source.
Right. Tether CEO Paolo Ardoino announced it. The vision is pretty ambitious. They're talking about creating a kind of personal infinite intelligence that operates peer-to-peer without needing API keys or relying on central points of failure. An unstoppable network, basically.
That sounds very crypto native in its philosophy.
Yeah.
How does the crypto part actually fit in, though?
Well, the platform is being designed with built-in support for peer-to-peer payments using Bitcoin and USDT.
Ah, okay.
And this will use Tether's wallet development kit, the WDK, which itself is an open source tool for building self-custody wallets. So they're embedding payments right into the AI layer using their own open toolkit.
So it's a strategic play to be the financial rails for this new AI ecosystem they're building,
Yeah.
expanding way beyond just stablecoins.
Exactly. It positions them potentially at the heart of this intersection between decentralized AI and decentralized finance. Very interesting and definitely something to watch.
For sure. Okay, besides those big themes, the newsletter's packed in a ton of other smaller but still notable news items. What else stood out?
Well, Coinbase acquiring Deribit was a pretty big deal in the exchange world, mentioned on May 9th.
Right, a major spot exchange buying a leading derivatives platform.
Right.
That consolidation could be significant.
Definitely. And the SEC settlement with Ripple also came up on May 9th, finally bringing some closure there, or at least moving towards it.
We also saw MicroStrategy continuing to stack sats, and Colar Technology Group, too, buying more Bitcoin for their treasuries. That was in the May 6th and 7th updates.
Yep. Reinforcing that corporate adoption narrative. And on the state level, New Hampshire actually enacted Bitcoin reserve legislation according to the May 7th newsletter. Interesting precedent.
Very interesting. What about tech and infrastructure?
Jupiter launched Universal Send on Solana, aimed at making things easier for users. Stripe introduced stablecoin financial accounts, more mainstream integration. Both were in the May 8th issue.
And Robinhood was apparently considering launching its own blockchain, Solana or Arbitrum-based.
Yeah, that caused a bit of buzz, too. Still exploring, it seems, but shows the direction platforms are thinking.
Then there was some traditional finance crossover, that DFDV stock split, and Coinbase becoming the exclusive crypto exchange partner for League of Legends and Valorant esports.
Right, big push into the gaming audience there. And of course, just general mentions of Pectra improving the overall user experience on Ethereum.
And Citi teaming up with SDX to tokenize pre-IPO shares.
Yeah, another example of TradFi meets blockchain, trying to unlock liquidity in private markets. And lastly, Binance listed the Doodles DOD token, making it available to more traders right after the launch.
Wow. Okay, so pulling it all together, it was clearly a really dense, really active period. From NFTs maybe showing signs of life, the huge Pectra upgrade for Ethereum, Tether jumping into AI, and just a general market upswing. Lots happening.
Absolutely, a lot to keep track of.
Well, we hope this deep dive has helped make sense of it all, giving you a valuable snapshot of those key developments from early May.
Yeah, hope it was useful.
For more details and ongoing updates, you can always check out niftynoon.com.
Definitely worth keeping an eye on the site.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Nifty Noon podcast.